Most men can't do 25 push-ups straight. That's not good. This is your husband. This is your brother. This is your so-called protector. It sounds good, but in real life, he couldn't actually protect you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men today who aren't willful. They live in the bubble of potential, in their imagination, thinking that's enough, but they don't actually have the ability to challenge themselves, to get out that comfort zone,
Yeah.
and to take a thought that's inside their mind and then produce it in reality through execution by means of their skills, their gifts, their talents. So if you look at a young boy today, he's more into his feminine energy than his masculine energy. When I say seek challenge, not comfort, it's because as a man, when you seek challenge, then that's when you feel you're living your purpose. I'm an economy.
You're an economy.
I'm an economy.
Well, this is a first, 19.
Right.
I've never heard somebody say this to me.
Most influencers don't look at themselves as an economy because they've been wrongly contexted because they wanted to make it smaller than what it really is. But black influence is the most powerful in the world.
What would you say to people who have called you an internet guru and people who have said you are kind of not who you supposed to be?
I'm being super honest with you. You feel me? Because
Welcome to Vaught Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. But before I introduce my guest for the day, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor. I need you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your daily dose of inspiration and motivation. But without further ado, I get to introduce this very polarizing figure sitting across from me. 19 Keys is a thought leader, futurist, and entrepreneur. Known for his dynamic approach to empowerment, 19 Keys blends metaphysics, mindfulness, and business acumen to inspire individuals to reach their highest potential. Through his high-level club, he facilitates a community of leaders and peer tours dedicated to personal and professional growth. As the founder of High-Level Media, 19 Keys creates meaningful and impactful content, partnering with like-minded creators to produce shows like award-winning High-Level Conversations on the Earn Your Leisure platform. His work explores various themes, including technology and AI, emphasizing the transformative opportunities these fields offer to his communities. Renowned for his profound wisdom and engaging speaking style, 19 Keys continues to inspire and educate globally on the importance of self-awareness and intentional living. 19 Keys believes every man must seek challenge, not comfort. Vaught Empowers Talks welcome thought leader, speaker, teacher, and content creator, 19 Keys, to the show.
thank you for having me. I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, it's yours. It is yours. It's good for you to, I'm so glad you're here. You are a very polarizing person on the internet.
Am I?
You don't think so?
I haven't noticed.
You haven't noticed? Other people have polarized you maybe.
Okay.
So you are a thought leader. You're a futurist. You are a man who is about community. Kind of talk to me about how you landed in this space.
It's always an interesting conversation for me because I believe that I was born for it.
Yeah.
Right? And along the journey, there has been opportunities for me to grow into it. Right? I think one of the more striking times, if we go to a specific story or lesson, is when I had a case when I was younger, right? It was a case for assault, and I remember being locked up reading a book. And this book was a fiction book, and I went through the whole entire thing. It had great characters, good storyline, the whole nine. I was entertained. But then when I closed that book and I was done with it, I realized I'm no longer closer to my freedom. I haven't been empowered whatsoever. I'm in the same circumstance. So my older brother, who's fighting the case from behind bars at the time, gave me a list of books to read, right? And these books were nonfiction books, books to empower me, books to help me understand how to be more strategic as I'm fighting my case, right, and maneuver. So after I read those books, I remember striking a chord for more and more practical knowledge that I could apply directly to my situation. And I remember telling my lawyer things to do, right? And he at first would resist. Then when he did it, we would get certain motions dismissed and things of that nature that help us eventually get to the point where they say not guilty.
So how old were you when this case was going on?
I was 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were facing assault charges. This is
Yeah.
when you were living in Oakland, or were you in St. Louis at the time?
I
Or
was in my first year of college at the time. Was coming from St. Louis. I was going to a college in Missouri, but the case was in Oakland. Right,
Okay.
it was something I was accused of during a winter break visit. Right, so my father and my brother was co-defendants within the case. Somebody
oh, this was a
snitched.
family affair. Okay,
Hey,
now let me
that's what
set
they
up.
said it was. Somebody went on there and they informed and said that they seen me at the scene of the crime, and the evidence showed that they didn't see anything. Right, but the point of it is that once I got that not guilty verdict, I thought about all of the people that didn't have keys in their life, like somebody to set them on the path of getting their mind right and preparing them for that
Yeah.
battle. 80% of young men, they plea out in cases, not because they're guilty, because they don't have resources or they don't have the knowledge to strategically get themselves out of it. So I thought about becoming a key in the lives of others, and I didn't want to take on any knowledge that wasn't practical towards my freedom and empowering myself. So since then, I've been teaching and becoming that 19 keys in other people's lives.
Okay. So what are these 19 keys? Do you have 19? Are they like a pillar? What is one of those keys?
So 19 keys is not a finite number. The number 19 represents 1 through 9, so it represents all numbers,
Okay.
right? But when we talk about the 19 keys, they're principles of living, right? Living through truth and enlightenment and reaching one's highest self. And so one of them is, I always like to go by this code: accomplish what you will, right? There's a lot of men today who aren't willful, right? They live in the bubble of potential, in their imagination, thinking that's enough, but they don't actually have the ability to challenge themselves, to get out that comfort zone,
Yeah.
and to take a thought that's inside their mind and then produce it in reality through execution by means of their skills, their gifts, their talents, right? And so I think we have a generation that is, very backwards and reverse minded right now, right? So my goal,
Reverse minded.
yeah. So if you look at a young boy today, he's more into his feminine energy than his masculine energy.
I've heard you talk about this on your podcast.
Yeah,
You
'cause
just
it's
did an
true.
episode not too long ago about this.
Absolutely. I think the whole world sees it, right? The whole world knows it, right? We're not in the era of our fathers. We're not in the era of our grandfathers. And there was a particular time where, yes, we definitely need that correction and healing to get that balance of our feminine sides. But some of us went so far over that they're now out of touch with their masculine side. So when I say seek challenge, not comfort, it's because as a man, when you seek challenge, then that's when you feel you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
There is a part of the brain, it's called the mid-cingulate cortex, and it's the area of the brain that is responsible for the seat of willpower. So basically, when you do what you hate, that area of the brain grows, it expands. It also increases your will to live. One of the issues that we have specifically with black men is suicide rates and depression rates are very high.
Yeah.
Right? So that willfulness to say be and it is, I'm gonna tell myself to do something and I'm gonna go from A to B step by step and get it all the way done. Right? I'm able to produce and manufacture, right, for myself, and I can manage myself to get things done in reality. If you are claimed to be a man, that means your mind works, because man is mind. But if your mind can't take ideas that's in here that you're thinking about and bring them here, then how can you prove that you're a man, that your mind works?
So how have you been able to move yourself into this very masculine space? Because you obviously have had some challenges along the way because you
Yeah, a
were
lot of 'em.
you had some run-ins with the law. You had some moments where I'm sure that you weren't operating in your highest potential.
For sure.
And so where was the shift and what were the steps that you took to shift into this very masculine, bravado and persona that we've come to know on the internet?
And I don't even think it's so much of shifting into a masculine bravado or persona. It's just me being myself, right? I think that when I was younger, I grew up in the FOI. So we used to get a certain training. It's the foundation that matters.
Yeah.
These were my rites of passage, right? Without rites of passage, then you don't break that barrier of belief to go to that next stage.
Yeah.
And throughout time, coaches have always had rites of passage because they understand that the child has to break the dependency mind, right, from being in the protected womb of the mother, right, figuratively, or under the protection of the father, and they have to believe that they can now prepare themselves for the world, right? You can fend for yourself, you can fight for yourself, you can speak for yourself, you can think for yourself. So when I was younger, I went through all of these circumstances to where I was able to prove to myself that I can do this.
Yeah.
So therefore, I didn't have any of those handicaps. I think it starts with your needs, right? We have particular needs: growth, contribution, community, right? Significance.
Yeah.
Now, in the household, if you grew up right, then all those needs will be fulfilled, right? Somebody told you and they expressed to you how much they love you. You're a part of a family that gives you community. You're able to develop value to contribute in the household in some sort of way, right? They give consistent, gratitude towards your efforts, so
Yeah.
you feel significant. But if you don't have that and you grow up like most people that have adverse childhood experiences, then you seek significance too much, right? Or you may seek community too much, right? When the real focus should be growth.
So this is like the extension of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, but in a very practical way. Because if you look at it today, the reason people cannot collaborate, right? Because they're so busy trying to be more significant than the person that they sitting across from. So therefore, I need to compete with you versus to figure out how we can create a cooperation. But if you really focus on, all right, what is my primary need, and you filter your thoughts through that, which should be growth, because then you will develop the skills, you will learn, and then what you learn, you will use that to contribute to the community you're a part of, which gives you significance.
Yeah.
But most people have it reversed. They think their significance is the contribution to the community, right? So therefore, we have a very inverse reality where people are walking around backwards. So everybody is competing. Everybody is an individual, and there's an egoistic atmosphere that's happening. So we have to go into a sphere where, number one, you have knowledge of self. You develop yourself and say, how can I contribute my gifts, my talents, my skills to the community? And then how can that give me significance? It's a very simplistic thing because most of our solutions are simple.
So you are very community based, right? You believe in building community. And did that really come from you growing up in the Nation of Islam and you being a member of FOI and kind of learning these manhood principles early on?
I think it came from me having a large family.
Okay.
Right. So I have 6 brothers, 2 sisters. Right. And, growing up in a household, being in the middle of that, I know what it's like to be a younger brother and an older brother. Right. So I think that that's where that particular understanding comes from. Like, I've always wanted to work with them, but we all are in different lanes and we have different mindsets. So not being able to form that community with them and do business at an early age, then I said, okay, I'm going to show y'all how to collaborate. So then I would start creating these other groups and bringing them together and start building with them. So I believe it started in the household because my mother and my father instilled those principles. Right, the FOI is where I got my discipline from, where I got my more militant side.
Yeah.
But it was 2 different sides that I seen. The side where my mother was in, she was in the more where it's based on virtues and values, right, and principles. My father was on the more gangster side. It was more militant.
Yeah.
So I seen both sides of what's necessary because I seen one side fall, right, because the men with power also became corrupt at particular points in time.
It was at the story of your father?
Yeah, that was in Oakland.
Right, because y'all were catching a case at the same time, right? Y'all was a part.
Those are stems of extensions of things. That's later down the documentary story. Yeah, I've lived a very interesting life that most people would be surprised from. But
what would be the thing that would surprise most people?
Well, there's a lot of details. I think growing up in Oakland, California, we grew up in a very militant Muslim environment, right? So
It's the home of the Black Panthers.
Yeah, but it's the home of a story of Your Black Muslim Bakery, where it was an operation that ran for 40 plus years. So you got to imagine walking outside and you seeing 100 black men in suits jumping out and drilling in front of your house. right? But then your son can go there and get a job and get some discipline and some training. Then they also have a school. They also have health services, right? They also have a security program, right? So this was the environment where I seen black men with money. It'd be a motorcade of all black cars, Benzes, GMC trucks, the whole nine. And this was a movement based on consciousness, militant discipline, and economic, right, independence. So seeing that at a young age, my paradigm shifted to what was possible. But then we lived in the streets. Like we still, from St. Louis to Oakland, we grew up in the duality of both environments, right? So my family, particularly the Muhammad's, we was a little separate, right? We had our own names and our own thing going. My older brother, he was in the streets. My father been a street guerrilla warfare militant general, right? But then at the same time, you know, it's all of these nuances of life that you can't teach people, right? It's all of these different experiences that you go through that you realize that was constantly preparing you and giving you different perspectives. I worked in corporate before. I worked in all aspects.
You've worked in corporate?
Yeah, I worked at Prada before.
Oh, okay. And what did you do for corporate?
Well, when I first started off, I was doing sales. I got to do visual merchandising, clienteling, things of that nature. I fired them and then started my own business in Oakland, California.
Well, that's so interesting, 19 Keys, because you said recently, I don't have a job, a car, and I didn't finish college. I am able to go around the world being myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you come about that?
Knowledge yourself.
Okay.
My parents told me I was a God at a young age, and for most people, they think about it in the wrong way. It meant that you have the ability to tap into that inner God, right? That regardless of what title, what degree, you more than anything that the world can say you are, right? So at a young age, I never needed that significance of all those things that other people needed to say I am who I am. Right, so I can walk around with just the confidence of being myself, while another person needs all of the exterior things for other people to filter them through. I never needed that. I don't need a degree to say that I'm knowledgeable.
Right.
I don't need that. That may be your paradigm that you live through because of the way you was taught, because we've been indoctrinated into a system. I 100% understand that, and I understand the value of that as well, the process of discipline you get from going through that. But it doesn't mean that I can't learn a skill, use my mind, right, and then build. That's very simple, but every man can do that. But we often think, oh, because I don't have this, it creates this insecurity, so you believe you're not this, so you don't become it.
Right.
I don't have that. When I say I don't have a job, of course I work. Of course I have a business.
You sell e-products, you have created a community.
But I'm an economy, though.
You're
right?
a what?
I'm an economy.
You're an economy.
I'm an economy.
Well, this is a first, 19.
Right.
I've never heard somebody say this to me.
As when people talk about content creators, we do media production, right? But when you are an economy, right, you influence people's spending habits, right? So there are many businesses that stem from me that have grown in the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I bring people on my platform. We get millions of views. Then they go on to then create more, right? Now they have business, they have industry, they have multiple things. I can tell someone to not drink something, that could mess up a whole supply chain. Or I can tell them to go towards something, right? And then we can build a supply chain, right? So most influencers don't look at themselves as an economy because they've been wrongly contexted because they wanted to make it smaller than what it really is. But black influence is the most powerful in the world. Look at Kanye West. Kanye West, if it wasn't for him, American Apparel would have went out of business. Gap would have went out of business. Adidas would have been went out of business. Or at least wouldn't have been getting the margins that they have been getting year over year. That's because he's an economy, a global economy. He affects supply chains with his words, right? But we don't frame it that way because they don't want us to know how valuable we are. Black people in America going to spend 70% of our dollar on luxury goods and apparel. If you educate a base of that consumer to have more self-awareness and heal through their insecurities, they stop spending, right?
Absolutely.
Because then that insecurity is not trying to be covered up with the ambition of gaining more. They become more. So what do? That means you're taking away a consumer group from them, right? This is why it's so dangerous to educate black people, because every other group benefits off our ignorance. They benefit off our trauma. You need to be seen as so much that you're going to wear our brands all over you and walk outside, right? And then talk down on your own people who cannot afford it, but you just made generational wealth for my family.
Yeah.
Right? So when I say I'm economy, I mean that in a very literal sense, right? There are businesses that stem from me. We circulate the dollar, we influence the dollar, and we are right now focused on prosumership, produce what we consume. As so-called 13% of the population, we're responsible for 20% of luxury goods and spending, right? So we love to spend so much, outsized more than any group. If we focus on producing what we consume, then that's our reparations right there, just circulating the money and using that to funnel and solve the problems. So yes, I'm a walking economy everywhere I go, right? If I say we're gonna have, we doing an event called High Level World, people are going to buy their tickets. They're going to get into their hotel rooms, right? They're going to buy food from the restaurants. That's going to stimulate within the brands. That money is going to circulate to create more jobs and opportunities. That's what I mean by an economy.
So as an influencer, as an economy, as someone who knows the power of their presence, what would you say to people who have called you an internet guru? And people who have said you are kind of not who you supposed to be?
Who am I supposed to be?
I'm just going on what the internet be saying now, team. You know what I'm saying?
The
I'm just doing the
internet is
research.
a vast information web where a person of very low IQ and a very high IQ can say things. Most people pay attention to what people of low IQ have to say. There are parts of the region of the internet where people are very intelligent. They don't get the same amount of views, right? Ignorance is always going to be more louder than enlightenment, education, right? Because a fool has to be louder to get more attention. A wise man is going to say it softly, but he going to say it truthfully. I'm a black man in America, right, that decided to use his mind to build himself up. Now, there's not many men that can say that. I put myself to be one of the most influential men in the world, right? That's who I am. Right? What do I do? How do I impact people? I have people working out and changing their life through wealth and wellness. That's who I am. You want to know who I am? Ask the people, right? Ask the people how I have impacted their lives. Ask the businesses how I stimulated them. Ask the young man that just got out of prison how he was watching me, and the videos allowed him to change his life. So now he wants to start a business. Now he's starting a business. Now his family is looking at him different. Ask the young man that learned how to tap into that masculine spirit so that he learned his values and his principles, and he's walking and he's talking and he's moving different. Ask the businesses that I stimulate. I am what I do, right? People that want my position, but they can't get it, then they have to talk about it so they can be close to it. So I understand that. Success has a byproduct of hate. But I am what I represent as I move throughout this planet Earth. I'll be outside with the people. And the one thing people never do is say it to my face.
Well, that's
because I still keep my slap hand strong.
Your slap hand strong?
For
I
surely,
know that's right.
very strong.
Listen, mine is too.
Yeah, a man got to be capable of violence.
Yeah. So your response then would be the impact that you've made on people.
Yeah.
Your response would be check the receipts because your seeds have taken root and they blossomed. That would be your response.
Well, I mean, it's very real. We built one of the biggest shows in the world, right? Nobody was doing what we was doing at the time. You got the Joe Rogans doing the long form, but when it comes to long form, right, in black media that have conversations that are stimulating and intellectual, we are the #1 show in the world. So if you want to look at me through a lens, right, look at me through media. That's what I do. If you want to look at my health business we built with the family, we're having a family business for the last 5 years where we have nootropic products. Before they was hot, before everybody started selling nootropics and mushrooms and things of that nature and colloidals, we've been had it at a higher level. We've done collaborations with the largest financial literacy brand in the world for the last 5 years. And now it's one of the largest events, right, in history, right? Like, there's a lot of things that I can just say,
you're talking
look
about
at.
with Earn Your Leisure,
Yeah,
correct?
with Earn Your Leisure.
Yeah.
You feel me? But that's only one of the things that we've done. I am what I do. What most people look at is the results of it. Think about what it takes to get it done, right? Like, I have many skills and wear many different hats at all times of the day. And if you believe you can do the same, then try. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge because you have a daily routine that most people would not be able to commit to. So walk us through, because of course, if anybody goes on your social media, they're going to see your daily workouts. You're going to see you are invested in prayer, meditation, and all the things. And so talk about your daily routine of what makes you and so impactful.
Well, I'll tell you what I did today. You
Okay.
know, I woke up today. First thing I
Amen.
did is I walked outside and I grounded my feet. I sun gazed in the sun, make sure the rhythm of my body connected to the cosmos, because that's what you do. And then, right, I went to go work out directly. Didn't feel like it, but as I say, you have to do what you hate.
Yeah.
Right, I worked out with the team. I want to make sure that everybody's getting healthy together. We in there challenging each other, doing pull-ups. Then we go to legs. Right afterwards, we go get us some very healthy smoothies. We had that Dr. Sebi smoothie out there at the West End, hella good, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Then afterwards, we got to get back home, get showered, get dressed, put on this oil called Godly and Fine so I can walk out shiny. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
And then I had to go meet up with Queen Afua. She requested my presence. We had a
I love her.
beautiful
She's so
conversation,
awesome.
very healing,
She healed
right?
me one time in New York.
Yes. And I needed that as part of my routine because we were talking about the requirements of healers and leaders, right? And then, of course, we had a hard schedule to come right over here. So I don't get to document all of that, right? And the person may see this podcast, then watch the clip and be like, oh, he influenced and he here. You don't think about everything that's required because that's what I had to do. Now think about what my team have to do. They have to schedule it all. They have to manage it all, right? They have to have themselves that show up. We just had my whole family working at InvestFest. We had to set up the booth. We had to hire the person. We had to have several meetings about the flow and operation of how everything was going to go. I had to then connect with both of the speakers, Billy Carson and Yaki, right, and talk to them about what we were going to do, what is the intention behind it. I had to meet with manufacturers before that to secure partnerships so that we can announce that we're going to be giving away a $45,000 brand scholarship to help bring more awareness to black manufacturing in the U.S., right? Like all of these things behind the scenes, that's what 19 Keys does. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing besides watching what I'm doing?
I love that. What are you doing besides watching what I'm doing? You have such a commitment to building men, building community. You talk
And
a
women
lot,
too.
and women, because you
Yeah.
talk a lot about masculine and feminine energy in a lot of the conversations that you have. And so my question would then be, how is family being played out in your life? How do you see yourself continuing that legacy for yourself and building that family? You talk about marriage being metaphysical. And so what is that connection for you in this season of your life?
Very great question. Family is one of the number one things in my life, right? Family is always a tough subject because I got a lot of brothers going through a lot of things. So when you say family, that's what I automatically think of, right? And being the strongest person in the family, being an uncle, being a brother, being a son, right? You see things from all these different perspectives. I've seen what don't work. I've seen what do work,
Right.
right? I've seen all of the dramas of baby mothers and fathers that you can possibly see.
Yeah.
From the worst, right, to some beautiful aspects of it. I've seen some of my siblings get divorced. I've seen them get married, divorced, remarried, right? I grew up in a broken household where my mother and father were separated, right? So it gives me a skewed view of the way you're supposed to customize life to work for you. Because your pastor can tell you something, your minister can tell you something, but they can't live it for you, right? They don't have the same traits, experiences, personalities, wants, needs, desires, ideas that you have about life, nor are they the same age and live at the same time to make it work for you. So I've been in the season of making sure that I am the man, right, that's ready, right? We talked about this on stage. Before you make a baby, right, you have to make sure that you healed. Because everything that you don't heal, you put in that baby,
Absolutely.
right? And the easiest way to give that child inheritance is to become more before you have a child. Because they're going to inherit 25% from you, 25% from them, or 50%, but also 25% from the grandparents. So the person that you pick, make sure that they are properly ready. Like, make sure that you both are at your 100%. That you're not passing down the same issues your grandparents, your great-grandparents put in you and you never decided to heal, the same addictions, issues, lower shadows that we all have. So I believe that I'm in that season of making sure that when a child is brought, when the marriage is there, right, it's from a very clear and healed place.
So what are you doing to ensure that healing is? Are you committed to therapy? what kind of personal development are you tapping into in this season?
Yes, I'm committed to intentional shadow work. I've done some therapy, right? I've realized that my therapist needed me more than I needed her.
Oh God! You know what? I am not surprised that you would say that. 19 Keys. I feel like you would sit down and say that with everybody.
No, I feel like she was overworked. And I could
Okay.
tell she was,
Okay.
when I sit with Queen, she has an energy and a presence, very receiving and healing. My therapist felt like she was trying to get through the day, So I felt like you probably need to sit with someone, and I shouldn't be feeling your energy.
You was diagnosing her while y'all was on while
I'm
you was
supposed
on
to
the
be
couch.
releasing.
and
I
you
can feel her anxiety of her life, and that's not what I want to be
you
feeling.
were feeling the anxiety of her life.
Yeah, I'm very empathic.
I can tell that.
So
Yeah.
I can feel when other people are going through things.
Okay.
So I shouldn't feel my therapist's issues.
So tell our audience, you said you're going through shadow work.
Yes.
For those people who may not be familiar with that type of work, give them a look into that.
So Carl Jung was the one who talked about shadow work, and it's basically saying that everybody has a shadow, right? We have our public selves, right? We have our private selves.
The darker, the
Right,
dark
and
side.
we have our shadow
Yeah.
selves. So the public persona is what you want the world to see. This is what you present to the world, right? Private is more so the person you with when you with family, right? You may be a little more soft or more funny or more just outgoing, whatever it may be. But then your shadow self is the person that you with when it's just you, right? The person that you have to deal with when you look in the mirror, right? The person that can make you feel shame, guilt, or joy, right? Because there's a resolve between, and most of it comes from like unhealed traumas or unprocessed things or unlearned lessons. So this is why we do something and we feel guilt, right? Why did I do that? Or we feel shame. I'm a bad person. Because there's an integration that didn't happen, right? To where there's a shadow making decisions and you're trying to deny that it exists. And then once it takes over and it happened, now you're shameful because that's not who you want to be. So what you have to do is to take a real deep introspective look at self. What I like to do is go over my past and I reframe. So it's something called reframing. I think about all of the, like I've done this many times in life where I just go through my whole entire life in a series of events that I believe that made me. Times I felt shame, I felt guilt, I felt, if I felt fear, whatever it may be. And then I go through that and I reframe what was actually happening. Right? Because what happens is when somebody go through something, they still think that they're the person going through it. So it's in their body, right? It's in your nervous system, right? And that leaks into your personality. So you have all these undealt with things. You can't heal until you learn, right? And so a lot of people haven't learned the lesson. So they're trying to blame other people for being triggered.
Right.
It's not their fault. You have to heal yourself. So when everybody say, don't trigger me, no, heal yourself. So there's nothing to trigger.
So, what is your shadow teaching you right now? What have you learned from doing the work thus far? And then what stories have you had to reframe over your life?
I think my shadow, is teaching me to have grace with myself, right? One thing I've been using as a good analogy, I think people can understand. When you look at politicians, we can easily forgive them for their past because we believe that what they're going to do moving forward is greater than their mistakes.
It's our hope.
Right. So we'll say, I don't care what they've done. This is more important. We don't do that with ourselves. We don't do that with people in our lives. We don't do that with black leaders. We don't do that with anybody else. But uniquely with politicians, we have an ability to give them grace, right? Because we can say that's not them. We can detach them from their past. It's very hard to do that with ourselves. So as a human, because this is what I learned to see my parents, I had to see them as human beings.
Absolutely.
And I believe I gave my parents grace and I forgave them faster than any of my siblings, which allowed me to process and grow and mature. Because I seen my father as a man, I understood he didn't have his father, right? I seen my mother as a woman. I understand who her mother was, what she went through, right? And once I started seeing them as human beings, then I didn't have any undealt with mother or father issues. Now I'm just dealing with my issues, right?
Yeah.
And so when, I did that, it allowed me the room to grow, right? And I think that's what grace does. It gives you the room to grow. I'm not perfect, right? I have some of the same lower needs and issues as everybody else, but I'm always striving. And the fact that I'm constantly recognize that is mean that there's a better part of myself that wants to grow and wants to be better. And that's an undying part of myself that's only getting stronger. So I think number one is forgiving myself and giving myself grace, right? And then right after that, empowering myself with the knowledge to actually do it, challenging myself to get better and better, and recognizing and celebrating those parts of myself as well. And so shadow work, I think, is necessary for everybody because we all have an aspect of ourselves that we want to be better.
What's the one thing that you want to reframe about as you build your community? Because there's a huge influence that you have. You are an economy, a walking economy.
Yes, ma'am.
And so as you are shaping community and relearning and unlearning and shifting yourself in the process, what do you want to impart on the community in that way?
Well, one thing I want us to do is to see ourselves for who we really are. I don't think we're looking at the whole picture, right? In today's time, we see ourselves through a lens of hip hop. And hip hop is not who we are. It's an aspect of entertainment that mirrored and reflected, right? Particularly when it started, what some of our greater leaders were speaking about. The injustices, the social revolution, the activism, the knowledge of self. That's what it started off, and then it morphed and it changed into a lane of industry, right? Only reflecting the lower self, right? And so when we say hip hop is culture, we do ourselves a completely disservice, right? 100%, because we're branding ourselves with negativity. And so now media is so powerful, it informs our attitude, it informs our love about ourselves. When we watch hero movies, like less than 10% of them have black characters in them, right? So our mythos, our image, the way we see ourselves from the lens of the nigga, the drug dealer, the Jezebel, the hoe, the pimp, right, the gangster, whatever it may be. That's how we see ourselves. And then people outside of that are considered to be outliers, not the norm. Right? So instead of 19 Keys being the norm, right, a black man with some knowledge of self, just building with his family, his culture and world, that's considered to be an outlier. So when it's an outlier, you don't see yourself through it, right? But when it becomes something normal, oh, that's who I am. That's what I'm going to become. So you're creating these new archetypes. So I want us to stop looking at ourselves through the lens of hip hop, look at ourselves through the lens of all of the social revolutionaries that we've had over the last 100 years. Hip hop is only 51 years old, right? But we've been in this country for the last 400 years. And when you pay dues and respect to our history, then you see who we are. But we're not looking at the whole, right? When I went to Ghana, I was in the president's office, and there's a secretary that was there, and I asked her, did she know Malcolm X? She said, no. I asked her, did she know 50 Cent? She said, yes, right? So if I'm walking down the hall and I'm confident and I'm coming through with my energy, I may think she's filtering and seeing me like she would see a Malcolm. But no, she's looking at me like she would see a 50.
A 50 Cent, yeah.
Right? So that has to be reframed. I want you to see me through the lens of my true ancestors, right? Not through music, not through entertainment, especially one that is controlled and owned, and most of them are suckers.
Most of them are suckers. Yes, I'm gonna go on that one. You said something that was really good that I want you to talk about, because when you talk about community and reframing and looking at ourselves through a different lens and not through a hip hop lens, but social revolutionaries, you said we have a poverty-induced stress disorder. And I want to know, has money become a common denominator to why we see a breakdown in our relationships?
Yeah, we pissed. That's what pissed is. Poverty-induced stress disorder is when you're caught up in a cycle to where the stress causes health issues and you don't have the money to actually help heal yourself. You can't afford the health care.
Yeah, I heard you talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we talk about money, money is something that we actually as a community haven't liked to talk about. So that's why InvestFest and the platforms that we've created with these financial literacy movements are important. But with money, economics can give us a form of healing. The reason that money is such an issue, because if the man is not making the money, he can't feel like the man and be the leader.
Absolutely.
So he does these other things to try to feel like the man to stimulate himself, right? Outside of the healthy tonic habits. He started finding toxic ways to do that, and it creates this imbalance.
Yeah.
Women are now growing an entrepreneur, right, in the spirit, and they're innovating, and they're taking leadership positions, so they're getting the money, and they're becoming more masculine, right? And in a lot of ways, it's creating an imbalance between us being able to have proper relationships. Who steers the ship? Who leads? Who pays for this? All of these are unnecessary things that are in between us that don't let us focus on the real part. Like, what are we building? What are we producing? So when we talk about really healing ourselves, right, and this is something that I think is directly tied to economics, right? And that's why I love Queen Afua with the sacred woman and things of that nature, because I think we get into a place where we're not focused on ambition, we focus on aspiration. The money is going to allow us to finally focus on what matters. That's what happens to a lot of people. They get money. They see what really matters.
They get to dream.
Right.
It gives them the power to dream.
They think bigger. When you ain't got no money, you think like this.
Absolutely.
Right? And you in poverty, you only trying to get to the next week and the next week and the next week. Somebody talking to you about next year, 2 years out, 10 years out. I can't think of that. I ain't got no money. Right? So the first wealth you find is in imagination. When a person can think far out, that's wealthy thinking, because all of their habits collectively will get to there. But if we can't have financial literacy and we can't build economics, then we're not going to build strong families. We have to be able to create jobs, right? Those jobs centers us in leadership. So now we can have a say-so in what the young men do, how they grow up, where they go, why they get educated, what they get educated in. It becomes a rites of passage. When I had a job when I was younger, right, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Right? Learning how to cooperate and work with others. Right? Understanding the limits of my skills, what I needed to brush up on. Seeing other people who are better in it in certain areas. But we haven't controlled manufacturing, job output, right, economics in a long time. And so I think that poverty-induced stress disorder or trauma that happens in the Black community specifically is when you have so much creativity with a lack of opportunity, right? And my brother Vince, he said that's when you end up with criminality. So what we have to do is, those who have money now is to create opportunity, right? Okay, you got a business, but can your business scale so that we can now have jobs?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of these inner cities don't need that many jobs. They need an extra 2, 3, 4, 500 jobs, right? That's every family can represent at least 2, 3 to 5 jobs, right? But then we're supposed to grow. Walmart is the biggest employer in the world. That's one family. One family. The biggest employer in the world, Wally World. Everybody want to work there. Or let me get that. No, they are paying people like $200,000-$300,000 a year now. So it may be good for some of y'all to work there, because entrepreneurship ain't for everybody. Thinking like an entrepreneur is.
Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but thinking like an entrepreneur is. Go in deeper on that.
Well, you got people who work for you, and we're in the age where we have artificial intelligence. We don't need more machine thinking, where if I tell you what to do, you only do that. You're only doing what you get paid for, right? An entrepreneur is creative. They're industrious, right? They know how to think for themselves. They can think on the fly. They know how to pivot. They know how to assess risk, right? So now we need people who think like entrepreneurs, because essentially you're not going to just be a worker in the future. You're going to be a partner, right? You're getting a commission off what you do. Do you have the skill sets of any value? Right now, the students need to go into creative thinking, right? They need to learn how to become philosophers, because the machines are going to be doing everything, but you have to tell them what to do. You have to be able to see something and then creatively put these parts together, then create something from what's already made. We're in a time where everything is already made. So how will you now chef it up? So thinking like an entrepreneur, I think, is the key. But the reason I say everybody isn't an entrepreneur, because everybody can't go through that grit, that resilience, right? To manage a team, to lead, right? To see a vision into fruition.
Absolutely.
So I think that we're getting into an age where everybody has to be customized to understand their skills. Who am I really? Understand your Myers-Briggs type, right? Understand your human design, not just your astrology sign. Right? You have to get deeper on who you are, because then you should live by your personality. You should live by your intelligence type. You should live based on how you emotionally connect to things. You should live based on your gifts, your skills, and your talents. That's a better way to set up a life so that people are doing things that they love.
So how are you teaching that in your high-level courses?
So we take people through self-assessment, right? One of the first things is building a file on yourself.
Building a
file.
Okay, a file.
Yeah. So let's say if the CIA had a file on you, they have everything about you, right? From your likes, your dislikes, your strength, your weaknesses. They'll know your psychology type, what you went through as a child, how you're prone to stress, anxiety, worry, disease, whatever it may be. So the first thing is creating this file so you have that knowledge of self, so you become the operator. You need to manipulate yourself. Manipulation is finding a clever way to get things done. Sometimes we don't know how to incentivize ourselves, right? We often look at what other people are doing and we want to do what they're doing. That's jealousy. That's not good enough to get you going. That's envious, right? You have to see what really stimulates you. So by creating this file, you now start to have self-awareness, and it gets you to the truth. You get to start living at true living. What really makes me joyful? What really makes me excited? What really inspires me? When you got that combination of joy, inspiration, and excitement, that's when you're operating from that God within. You have the enthusiasm, you have the spirit for life. So we start with self-awareness. We take you through mental training because 80% mindset, 20% skill set. Mm-hmm. You have the right mindset, you can master any skill set.
Yeah.
But thinking right now, learning how to learn, right, are the protocols that most people need. Most people don't know how to learn.
Most people don't know how to learn.
No.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because it's true.
Well, then that's
no,
it.
So we learn the wrong way in school, right? We learn to memorize things. Absolutely.
It's our conditioning that has helped us.
And as you get older, especially past the age of 25, you have to stimulate your learning in different ways, right? And so if you don't know how to stimulate yourself, same way as a man, you have to induce testosterone differently when you pass 25. So your habits have to change, right? And so I always teach people this because you may be taking courses or trying to learn from somebody, and you may be mad that you're not getting the results you're getting, and you may lash out of anger, but that's really your deficit in learning.
So then how are you stimulating yourself in this season of your life?
Yes.
Because do you share your age or no?
I'm 34.
So you're 34
Yes.
years old. So you're almost hitting into that 35, 35, and there's a shift that starts to happen at 35, and then 40, 42, I feel like is even a deeper shift.
Yeah.
And so how are you stimulating yourself and learning how to learn other things in this season of your life?
Challenge. Right now, I'm in that season of challenging myself. I like to focus on what is your 100% self, right? It's a very good, process that you can take yourself through mentally. Okay. What does your body look like physically at 100%?
So what's that process mentally? What does that look like?
So we start off like that. Think about your body at 100% physically, just physically. Physically is always a good start for people because they can visualize it.
Absolutely.
So you saying, looking at your body now think about where you would be if you were literally at 100%. I'm talking about from inside and out, your energy levels throughout the day.
Yeah.
Right? Your physical strength, right? The way you walk, the way you feel, your core, your abs, all of that. Now, when you think about that, you can also see how far you are from it. So now you know how far you are from it. Now you can start thinking about what do I need to do in order to get to it. Once you have that thought, you educate yourself on what you need to do. The next step is always execution. The problem is we don't execute fast enough. We get a thought and we get satisfied with the thought and we sit in it. You have the thought and you have to move, right? You have to be inspired, then you have to take action immediately. And once you do that, you start to have that energy of somebody who's moving and taking action. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad say first law of the universe is motion, second law is order. So once you have the energy and you put it into motion, you then have to order those thoughts. So if you focus on living at 100%, right, then you start to develop this image about what your 100% self looks like. And now you have to imagine that image when you look in the mirror so that you're focused on becoming that every single day. Financially, right, you should be making more money. Your spending habits should be better. You should be investing a greater percentage of your income into stocks or crypto or gold, right, or bonds or real estate or art or whatever it may be, or yourself, right? When it comes to mentally, you should be reading more. Right, you should be stretching yourself and challenging yourself to do tasks that are hard for you so that your brain can continue to grow, right? You know that you should be meditating so you can increase that mindfulness. You know that you should be grounding and going into nature more so you can decrease those cortisol levels so that you're not operating from stress and then worrying about anxiety, right? So if we develop that and we're in our learning self, in our learning season, because as you grow older, you should be learning more. That keeps you young. Like
Yeah.
reading and learning
For
literally
sure.
keeps your brain young.
Yeah.
So like focusing on brain health. What is my brain at 100%? What is my heart, my cardio? Can I run outside and run me a mile? Right? You probably get down the street and almost die. Right? So when most men can't do 25 push-ups straight. That's not good. This is your husband. This is your brother. This is your so-called protector. It sounds good, but in real life, he couldn't actually protect you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not his old age, because you can be capable in old age.
Absolutely.
You get muscle atrophy because you don't use it.
Absolutely.
Not because it just happens after time. Right? So I look at that and we break it down from that 100% self and we start to map out, all right, let's focus on getting you there. Right? And then that's a way that people can see progress in their daily life. But another big thing right now is really having a tribe and like community. So we doing like hikes, we doing workouts together, right? And online as well. But I'm big in like
Fostering community.
yeah, fostering community and those in-person experience to immerse you in that.
Yeah.
Right? I think that that's extremely important. But also just thinking from a holistic standpoint, what is wealth and what is wellness holistically?
Yeah.
Right? Like working out and eating right is our true health care.
Absolutely. I totally believe that. You talk a lot about reading, and you're an avid reader. I definitely hear that you've probably read The Message to the Black Man. That's why you reference Elijah Muhammad.
Sure. I grew up on that.
Yeah, you reference. I can tell that that's you read that. What would be your top 3 books if somebody is looking to shift their mindset, become more mindful, start to build themselves up where they are a stronger, better person? What would be those top 3 books that you would give them?
Well, I'm always start with Message to the Black Man, number one. It's a reason why some of the strongest, most admired black men in history have that in their book list.
I mean, it's a
foundation.
phenomenal and Eat to Live.
It's yeah. I mean, really, I would do myself a disservice if I didn't say all his books. Because you need Message to the Black Man, How to Eat to Live. Fall of America helps you understand the times in which we are living in. Theology at times will help you understand it from a higher perspective, a cosmic perspective, right? People say they're spiritual, but they could never explain it. And I think that there's more discipline in it. As you said, How to Eat to Live, Value 1 and 2. Dr. Sebi said those were the books that got him started, right? So, I would start from there.
Okay, so now you gave us more than 3.
Yeah.
Because there's more than 3. So I'm going to give you top 5.
Right.
Top 5. So number 1, Message to the Black Man.
Yeah.
Number 2, How to Eat to Live.
Uh-huh.
Number 3.
I like Way of the Superior Man.
That is on the book list of our crew. They brought that in here
great book.
some months ago. That's been on
Yes.
their list. Yeah.
I got a lot of books in my mind, but I even like Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I think that's a very good book. I like to listen to it versus read it.
And your last one.
Paradigm Keys. Get my book.
Hey, we knew that was coming. Come on, economy. He's a whole economy over here.
Yeah.
All right. So as we begin to close out this interview, I think you are very captivating.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very captivating. I see why you have built the community, because you have really built a very large following. You have, you get millions of views. You definitely have a lot of Instagram followers and subscribers and all the things across the platforms. What is that thing that has been the key to you building this brand?
I think science.
Science has been the key.
Yeah, understanding the science of branding, science of marketing, science of community building, the psychology, right? The neuroscience, right? All of the things that go into it. Like, you asked me about books about the mind, but I read a lot about actually how to build things, right? I think the intentional part is where people skip out on. There's some things that come to me naturally as gifts. There's some things I'm not good at that I have to learn and get better at consistently.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe it's the science, because everything that you talked about, that's the magic, right? That's the trick. It looks really great. But what's the science that makes it work, right? The science of designing, right? Engineering something, right? How to focus on like world building. Like, we're in a time now where the funnel used to be get awareness, and it will then create a conversion to people buying your product or knowing about you. But things go viral every single day now, right? Just because we're aware of things don't mean we're going to tap into them. We have to have connectivity to them. They have to inspire us, right? We have to care. So the funnel has changed. So what I'm doing it's always been my framework, but it's what the world is catching up to. Because as a futurist, I look ahead. I don't say, what is it that we're doing right now? Let me do the best thing for now, right? Let me build ahead so when people catch up, then I already had a funnel set up for them. So my whole entire platform, the way I work out, the way I speak, the way I create content, right, the way we build community, the way that we lead, that's the framework for the future, right? But it's been built off understanding the science of actually how the world build. And so we've been focusing on that, but my secret is being myself, right? And I'm being super honest with you. You feel me? Because I know a lot of people, when they watch something, and this is why I try to tell people there's certain parts of me I can't give you, right? I can't duplicate myself in you, but I can help you bring out the best parts of you, right? But I'm not going to sell nobody a dream like you going to become me. Mm-hmm. No, you going to become a great version of yourself. But there's certain things that I've been through based on who I am and my circumstances that you just can't get. God made me this way for a reason.
Yeah. God made you this way for a reason. One word as we close out, one word you're committed to in the season of your life.
My word is still prosumer. It's producing what we consume. I'm tired of us being the greatest influencers, right? Pushing out everybody else's product and not making none of our own. We way too powerful and we don't need anybody. The whole world needs us. They need to know what's next, so they come to us to see what's hot, right? And then they put it on. But we got to stop allowing everybody to manage our power. And we have to empower ourselves and manage it for us. We can beg a politician, we can ask for reparation, or we can find it in our existing power because it's already here. We can say, what is your health care plan? Or we can go work with, right, those who already have it going and learn that wellness. So for me, it's about producing what we consume and having a culture of prosumers, right? Saying that, okay, it's not just enough for me to go get a car and be hot and grab a chain and all that fly stuff. Who made that, right? That now has to be the next floss. Like, I made what I have, or I bought it from somebody that looks like me, right? So therefore, you can say your dollar is circulating. So we have to make these things that have been these ideas for so long, we have to make them real. You know what I mean? Because we are in a very beautiful time to be alive if we open our eyes and see it.
Yeah.
So if I can be an example for that, then so be it. Like the movement that we're going to create in the next few years is going to be astonishing. Whether I live or die, it don't even matter. It's still going to happen, right? But I'm going to do my part while I'm living, and I charge everybody to do their part.
What is this movement?
It's the advancement of our culture. It's us having an integral culture, a whole culture, not aspects fragmented, not us celebrating individual success. It's all of the wishes of our ancestors finally coming true, right? Collective, unified groups and organizations. When you see what we build out with High Level World, which is going to be our massive event that we have, you've seen InvestFest, but the way we're going to do it in a very holistic manner, where consciousness is at the forefront. Because everybody needs to go through a spiritual awakening right now. Some people think that they have. No. There's something deeper. We're too connected to local events and too disconnected to cosmic events. So we're not tapped into our cosmic selves, which is a higher version of selves when you're observing from a different lens.
Okay, rewind.
Talk to me.
Yeah. We are too connected to
local events.
And we should be more connected to
cosmic events. Yeah. As a people of the sun, man, we melanated people, we get charged up by the sun, right? Our skin conductance is different than everybody else. Next year is going to be the peak of what they call solar cycle 25. Is where the sun is going to be sending more charge to the earth more than any other time. Right now, for people like us, it's not a bad thing. But what happens in the summertime? Killings go up, crime go up. Why? Because there's an excess amount of energy that you don't know where to spend. So before that energy comes and hits you, you need to have something to where you're going to put it into, right? You're not going to drink an energy drink or drink some coffee and not have a task to do. You're not going to do that just to go to sleep,
Right.
right? So the goal is, as we're organizing and we're ordering things, as we about to get all this energy that's coming our way, what are we going to do with it? We got all these movements. We got all this power. We got all this media. We got everything we need at this point but each other, right? So there's not going to take everybody to do it. It's going to take qualified leaders, people that are engineers, people that are scientists, people that know how to do research and development, people that know how to put together consensuses, people that know how to build governments. We got all these people in all these different positions. We just now need to focus on building and organizing. It ain't got to be in front of the camera. Most of the beautiful things that happen in life are not captured, right? And I think that needs to be it's a silent revolution that needs to happen. We've had very loud revolutions for a very long time, right? But we haven't consecrated what the exact vision for our future is. You go across America, there's Jekyll Island, where they consecrated the banking institutions of America and how they was going to put everybody inside their system. When the 50-plus men wrote the Constitution, they consecrated a system to rule people over time. They consecrated that. And we've lost that. So we're doing all of these great things, but where's the intention? So when we talk about the advancement of the culture, we finally get to see, oh, this is where we're headed. And it's not controlled by nobody else. I don't care about no Project 25. I don't care who becomes president. If they become president, they do something good for us, we take advantage of that. But our life has to be outside the local events. We have to understand that this is our time, regardless of what happens.
This is our time, regardless what happens. 19 Keys, it has been my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing space with me today. Vault Empowers, this is another good one. Be sure to like, comment, share this interview with someone who needs a bit of consciousness injected into their life. Until next time, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.